Hi guys, it's Allison, and I've been away for a couple of days, and I'm back just for a few minutes. My videos always have to be so quick, and I am going to blaze through 5 prompts from Ethony's Tarot Challenge today, um, and we'll see how this goes. Some of them are going to be shorter than others because I don't have that much to say. I was thinking I should get everybody's got a channel name. I should be Allison from something, but I haven't figured anything out yet. So right now I'm just Allison. Okay, today is the 16th of January. I'm going all the way back to the 12th for the ones I've missed. So the question of that one is, why did I start tarot and why did I continue? Well, it's been a really long, slow process for me. I started because I've always had an interest in fun, sort of spooky things and Halloween. Not that tarot's spooky, but whatever, those opinions. And so did my younger brother. And we were always like to read about that stuff and thought it was pretty fun. Anyway, I'm an adult, obviously, and a number of years ago, my mother was diagnosed with brain cancer. There might be a couple feels in this thing. And I didn't really know how to cope with that or what to do with it, but I did know I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. So I went to see her every other weekend, and whenever I had vacation, I was there with her, particularly so my wonderful stepfather could take some time to spend with his kids, because so much of his time was devoted to looking after my mom and being with my mom. So I went for an extended vacation, 2 weeks, and one of the projects was to slowly clean out sort of a cupboard that my brother and I had used at various times as a part of a house clean out. And it was one of those things I was really dreading. There's things that you have at your parents' house that you don't want to take out of there, partly because you don't want them to clutter up your house and you have to finally decide what to do with them, which is the burden that all parents probably bear. But also just things I felt like belonged in my childhood, and this acknowledgement that my mom wouldn't be there one day and that house wouldn't be in our family one day was hard. But anyway, I'm a grown woman and I can do hard things, so I started to clean out the closet. And at the same time, being with my mom and looking after her, while it was definitely where I wanted to be and something I felt was just a real gift. She had a 6-month prognosis and we got 7 years with terminal brain cancer. We got so lucky compared to so many, and I'm very grateful. But being there sometimes was a bit hard because she would sleep a lot or not feel well a lot and want to rest, not really be into talking that much at certain times. So on the one hand, it was being constantly vigilant and ready for action if it was needed. And on the other hand, it was kind of boring. I don't know if you can hear my dogs in the background. I'm just going to try and talk over them playing. So it was this weird, I would watch a lot of TV, but I get sick of TV, but I didn't have the stamina to concentrate on an involved book. I read a lot of magazines, short articles, but it was a really weird state of being. So, I hear my dogs. So around that time, so I'm cleaning out the closet, and I find a deck of tarot cards in the closet. And they were my brother's. And I thought, well, maybe here's another little part of it. Around this time, I had started watching this garbage TV show called Witches of East End, which is wonderful garbage, just wonderful crap. And I highly recommend you look it up. It's just so much fun and so stupid, so stupid. Anyway, I was like, ooh, that looks fun. They read tarot cards on that show. And I could do this. I could learn tarot slowly, one card at a time. And what a fun party trick to pull out for my friends. And wouldn't it be fun at Halloween to be able to actually do this and to know these cards? So this was the deck. And it's called the Prediction Tarot Deck. And so I was like, no, okay, I'll look at the Prediction Tarot Deck. And so I'll just show you some cards because I never see anything about it. And I kind of get why. It's not a great deck to me. I find the colors really quite bland. I like the art style. It's got to me for some reason, I don't know, a little bit of a steampunky feel in some cards, although not in that one really. Um, the I don't know. I find it kind of cold, I guess, for me. And my brother never got into reading tarot cards. He bought 2 decks and I think never looked at them. And as a matter of fact, when we were finally cleaning everything out, I said, "Oh, these are yours." And he said, I told him the story about I was going to learn the tarot cards and wouldn't that be a fun party trick? And he said, "Well, why don't you just keep them?" Um, now, one of the things, so the major arcana, we'll get through this. As you can see, oh, it's missing a card. It's missing strength, which just happens to be my favorite card, one of my favorite cards in the whole tarot deck. I don't know if it was missing when I was trying to learn. I can't even remember now, or if somehow it got lost in the move. So it's a deck that I would trade if anybody wanted it, but it's incomplete, and it is 100% Pippi. So I learned the major arcana, sort of one card at a time, 10, 15 minutes at a time. What am I even doing? You know what this is, blah, blah, blah. So cups, blah, blah, blah. Swords. And then I lost interest in the minor arcana because they're boring. I thought at the time. So I learned the majors and then didn't think much about it. And then I was cleaning the closet. And then, oh, lo and behold, another one. Look at this tarot deck. And there's pictures on every card. What's going on? It's all out of order. And it's this version. I love how worn it is. There was no box. They just had an elastic band around them. It's really papery. It's not a vintage one. It's got the copyright. I learned enough about it to see that it's not valuable at all. It's cheapo, but this one, I was like, I could keep going. And then, so over those 2 weeks, I just kept looking at them. And then I started to think, okay, well, I'll shuffle them up and place them out. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I would look at them and I would find them comforting in this time when I was dealing with my mother's illness and my role as a caregiver to her and what it might mean when she was gone and the cleaning up of childhood things. You know, I would find cards that I would think about, and they're not magic. Like, I'm going to talk about my ideas about tarot in a minute, but they were helpful to me from things that were reading out of me. I've never ascribed to the idea that tarot cards themselves hold magical properties necessarily. Maybe they do, and I just don't know because I'm inexperienced, and I am willing to find out those things. That would be wonderful. I would love that. But for me, it's a reflection of myself and me to help think about what I'm going through and what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And if there are all aspects of personality in these cards, then maybe by looking and considering all these card aspects, you can become a more happy, realized, self-aware person. And that's what I kept going with. And that's basically all I've done with tarot cards. I also fell in love with art and symbolism and the decks, and I'm very tactile. I love shuffling the decks and feeling the decks. There are many things that I get out of this practice, but it is very internal to me, and that's why I've kept going with it, and it's fun. And I have read for other people who want it, who have not a lot of people know I do this. It's still very private, and I have some close friends who ask, but it is sort of more of as a lark on a girls' weekend, and that's fine. They can take what they want or leave what they want, because for me, everything that these things do radiates from me, right? Like in my self-reflection about it. And if it's fun for them to hear what I have to say about the cards and them, then that's great. But I'm not professing that to be anything more than that at this point, and maybe ever. So sorry, maybe I didn't say, this is called the Prediction Tarot deck. If anybody wants it, minus a card, maybe I would consider. I mean, I do feel this little kinship to it because it was my first one. I'm not going to do a review. You know how I feel about it. It's small. The cardstock is great, but it kind of just sits on my shelf now. I never look at it really, but it's the one I first came into contact with. Okay, number 13, best worst moment. All my moments are bests pretty much because it's fun and I like it, and because it's so personal and just for me, and I'm not like winging out there with anybody, and I'm not responsible for anybody else's reactions. I make my philosophy very clear for anybody who wants to read. So I guess I would have to say my worst moment is in a fit of curiosity. There was a psychic fair that came to my town, and I was like, I'm gonna go look at tarot cards and walk around because it's fun. And then I was like, well, maybe I should get a tarot reading. I've never had one. I've been looking at tarot cards and I know the meanings now pretty much. I'm not great, but I know the meanings. And so I did, and I walked around and I chose someone who was using the Rider Waite, the Centennial Rider Waite, and I recognized the deck. And I thought, okay, well then I can improve my knowledge through this other person. And she was lovely. Like this, I feel a bit bad saying this is my worst moment, but it was. So I sat down, and it's all due to me. But I sat down at the table, and she laid out the cards, and she looked at the cards, and then she looked at me, and she said, "Why aren't you sleeping?" And I mean, I went to a psychic fair. Her gig was to prove that she was psychic and that she knew everything about me from the cards and that she was reading me. And I realized that like I wanted to just have a conversation about, like I want to have a conversation. I didn't want to be predicted about, and I didn't want to have my mind read, and I didn't want to have my future told because that's not my philosophy. And again, silly me, because it was a psychic fair and that's what people do want. And so she did her shtick, and then she looked at my ponytail and my running shoes, and she said, "Oh, you're so sporty," and I'm not really. Like I like some sports, but I wouldn't say that defines me. And then I had 30 minutes, and then I just sort of let her go on, and then in the last 10 minutes, maybe this was my best moment, because she was finished, and she said, "So I might just," and I was like, "Okay, I have 10 minutes." I was like, "Can you tell me about how you laid out those cards? How do you like to do that?" Because I hadn't seen the way she had done that before. And I was like, "What do you think of this deck? And do you like it?" I said, I'm interested in these cards. And could you spend 10 minutes to me talking about, what you like about this deck?" And it was so cute because she was like, "Oh, I brought the Centennial Rider Waite in a tin because some people have tiny hands and it's hard for them to shuffle, especially big decks. So I thought that's considerate to my clients." And it was just, those things were really practical. And, the conversation I really liked, but this sort of idea that she needed to, and again, it's the environment. I don't know what I was thinking. Of course she's going to think she needs to be psychic and reading my mind and telling my future. But I learned my lesson, and that's not the environment with which I will seek that again. I really, like when I'm with my friends and we're looking at them, it's like an exchange. And what could that be? And is there anything about myself that I could consider to work on or change or celebrate? For God's sake, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. And anyway, so I just, in that moment, I thought it was going to be something, and it was something else, and it was all about my expectations that I had built up beforehand without thinking it through. So it's not this woman's fault. She was delivering what people were asking for, but that's just not what I want from it. So in that way, it was my best moment because it was very, very valuable, and I learned something, and that's always a valuable moment. Okay. I should have brought it. Darn it. I have a pendulum. The next question is about divination tools that you use other than the tarot. I do have a pendulum. This is in honor of a friend of mine who passed away very suddenly, very young, in a terrible accident. She had been living in Nepal, and she had sort of developed these esoteric interests. And she always carried a pendulum. And I carry a pendulum. And she said that the pendulum helped her to see her heart, right? Which I do believe. Like, I don't believe the pendulum is necessarily moved by anything other than your own inner desires and your gut. I think it's like an amplifier for your gut. You know what's the right thing to do, and maybe you just don't want to. You don't want to put the work into it. And she would take it out and it would fly around in circles in one way or the other. And it was really cool. And I don't use it very much, but it's a little thing that I carry because she carried it. And it reminds me of her and her spirit and her sense of exploration to go and live in another country. And she was like fighting. She was working for a charity organization, and she was fighting, for people whose voices aren't heard. And I would like to be more like her. I guess is the long and short of it. So I don't really use it very much. And I've already talked about my challenges with Oracle decks and keywords and blah, blah, blah. You can see that other video if you want. But That's my other divination tool. Do I have any decks that I just use for personal use? All of them, because my use is so personal, I think. The deck I tend to use with other people is the Centennial Rider-Waite, just because it's my favorite, my workhorse, and it's the one I feel more confident with. And those rare occasions that I ever bring anybody else into it. Again, it's really boring and personal. And the final one I'm going to talk about, do I use reversals? No. Nope. Nope. Too much. It's too much. I feel like the cards on their own really exemplify human experiences, the ups, the downs, the lights, the darks. I don't need another 78. Right now, anyway. Maybe one day I'll mature into it and I'll be yearning for something else. But I just, no, I don't. And that's about it. So I can't wait to watch other people's videos. I've been just sort of frantically looking at stuff. For the people who left little comments on my baby YouTube videos with no experience, and you're just so sweet. You're the best, and thanks a lot. And I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon.